Hey everyone, and welcome to Topcast, the only podcast dedicated to getting you top at Yu-Gi-Oh! My name is Gavin, and welcome back. I haven't made an episode of this for a little bit. A bunch of life things have come up, but it is what it is, and let's hop into our topics. So today I wanted to talk about Worlds, right? So Worlds was won by Julian Kahn for the TCG. Shout out to him. If I remember correctly, he's only been playing for about a year. So going from, just starting to play to world champion and double qualifying for Worlds is super impressive, and I think already kind of throws him in GOAT contention. If he continues playing like this, I can see him just being probably one of the greatest players to ever play the game. But enough glazing. He won with Vanquish Soul K9, and I think Vanquish Soul K9 with the basically the Milano build with like triple case was a great call for this event. Usually at Worlds, from what I've heard, right? I've never been there. I have heard that it's okay to take a deck that's like a little bit less consistent, but has a crazy ceiling, just so that you can just like basically do more than your opponent, win when you can. And that's kind of how it turned out, right? Like you've seen this in numerous results in the past, where you see True King Dinos also winning, and True King Dinos kind of got slaughtered on that ban list specifically for the fact that it won Worlds, I think, back in like 2017. So, yeah, congrats to him. Crazy deck choice. And I'm glad he did really well. And it looked like a lot of people were ready for that deck at the event, right? Like you see a lot of decks that were just heavy built for it, like the Lunalite deck. Lunalite also being a crazy counter pick solely for the fact that people aren't going to be on cards like Droll. Because they were expecting a lot of Yummy and BSK9. So, yeah, if you just like aren't playing Droll, aren't playing super low impact hand traps, a deck like Lunalite's just going to stomp on you. And ending on a big ass towers is just super good. Yummy also being everywhere. Yummy just being very low to the ground. Can do a lot, but also so little at the same time. Like, a deck like Yummy is very interesting too. And I'll hop more into that when it's time for us to talk about Justice Hunter's format. But the way how that deck interacts and plays is just so interesting to me. And I'm very glad to see that it was also able to top. Along with decks like Sky Striker and First After Swiss, I believe, being Malice. So yeah, congratulations to everybody who topped. Congratulations to the winner, Julian. You're going to continue to do great things, I hope. And yeah, let's hop over to Master Duel. Now, I know myself, I'm not really much of a Master Duel player, but it was really nice to see that the finals was basically, it came down to Ness versus Pac. Of course, they had like their crazy podcast back in the day. And being able to see them play a mirror match in the finals, which I will be real, sucked to watch. Like, watching Master Duel as opposed to the TCG is just way better, right? Because, like, the entire infrastructure, how you watch it, it's so much more interesting, to watch it in that context. However, the fact that Nesh basically won because he hit him with Maxi and then Double Breaker, that's kind of stupid, man. Like, Maxi is just a card I don't think it should ever exist, and the fact it's still in Master Duel and basically ruined the finals sucked to watch. But, props to Nesh. Like, the cards in the format, you have to play the best cards if it's in there, right? Like, that's why we play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! There's no reason to play good cards. Like, there's no reason not to play good cards. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to Pac as well for making it into second place with Enzo. And, yeah, fantastic watch. Congratulations to everybody who topped. So now that we covered Worlds, that's really the most I can come around with that. Like, Worlds wasn't super interesting this year, I will be honest. Like, it's basically just our format. I want to talk about our format, actually, at Justice Hunters. So Justice Hunters has been hyped up a lot solely for the fact of how different it is, right? Like, you have a lot of turn zero plays. Every deck, like, functionally can play into each other, for lack of a better word. It's a triangle format, technically, because the three best decks are Draco Tail, Vanquish Soul K9, and Yummy. But I think there are some things about the format that are still like a little buggy. Like, of course, is it better than Snake Eye format? Absolutely. Snake Eye format, in my opinion, was awful. Is it better than the format we just came out of? Yeah. Like, the fact that Ryziel turned into a combo deck with the Mitsurugi cards in the TCG was awful, right? Because that deck just went first. Like, it just basically came down to who won the die roll half the time. Sucked to watch, kind of awful to play with certain card choices. Like, I will say that cards like Talent kind of ruined. Well, Talent called by Crossout did kind of make it feel a lot less skillful and just more like, okay, who's going to just jerk off all over the field first, right? But there were a lot of counterplay. A lot of people who are really good at the game continued to top, right? Like, that's how I usually can know if a format is good. Are people who are notoriously good, or the same people just topping every event? And if the answer is yes, then you have an actual skill level, right? You have a skill gap. If there's the skill in the format, people can do that. It shows that you're in a good, healthy game. It just sucked that half the time it just sucked to play, in my opinion. And Justice Hunters kind of gives a fix to that, right? Because now, since every deck can kind of play into each other and are a lot more fair in what they do, like Yummy, for instance, right? I was just talking about that deck. It does so much, but yet what it does is so little. Like, you can have a pop, you can have a banish, you can have a search, you have instant follow-up. Yummy Surprise is stupid. You can end on double herald, but the deck can play into itself very well. Unlike, some Rizio mirrors where you just couldn't beat Baguska, right? Like, Baguska was crazy. Baguska Cross in particular was just super hard to beat. And stuff like that is very cool to watch. Dracotail too. Like, Dracotail is phenomenal being able to play into itself. And the fact that going second is actually sometimes preferred in certain matchups, I think speaks a lot for that there's like a lot more strategy and mind games going on now than there were before. What I don't like, though, is the fact that it does feel kind of swingy, right? Like, you can be in total control 1 second and then just lose total control on the other. And sometimes it can be up to you misplaying, right? Like, I don't think someone who's misplaying should be able to win the game, right? However, there are times where it feels like you can play perfectly, but your opponent just has everything and there's no coming back. And of course, that's Yu-Gi-Oh!, but it feels like it is the epitome of it right now, specifically with Vanquishable K9 decks. And I really hope on the next ban list we can have that addressed, because I do think our ban list is going to look a lot different now than it would have if it would have came out like a month or two ago. Like, I don't think they should per se kill the newer decks, right? Like, I think Vanquishable K9's fine. I think Yummy's fine. But there are some cards that just kind of make the game unwinnable. For instance, Obedience Schooled. Obedience Schooled not being once per turn is one of the stupidest things I've ever read. And the fact that Vanquishable K9 has Holy Sue. And Holy Sue by itself, like, if you have the right attributes, which I know is like a 3-card combo, but the way how that deck's designed is that you're always going to have that 3-card combo. And it just does too much. Like, how is a deck like Dracotail supposed to compete when we have stuff like that? And Dracotail is competing, but I don't think there's a way that deck can even win if it can't high roll you. And I don't think that's a good way to go about deck building. I don't think it's ever okay to be like, oh, well, my deck can like end on a win at turn 0. It's like, okay, you're never doing that. Like, that's never going to come up. And in half the matchups, that's not even correct, because I'm just going to keep my Dr. Madwell on field and bounce it back, you know? But of course, that just shows that there's more counterplay than there was before, right? Like, there's not like infinite negates. Like, right now, I think there's only one negate in the format, which I can think of, and that's very cool, right? Like, the fact that the only hard negate card is a card like Herald. And you can like do unique deck building with a deck like Dracotail, where you can just play a monster mash that you fuse with, and you don't have to put it with branded fusion. I hate branded fusion. Like, you're telling me I can play a fusion deck that isn't just like Spellslinger? That feels fantastic. I don't have to end on an FTK lock to win the game. Finally. It just feels so nice, right? Like, it feels like a nice change of pace, but I still think that there's things in the format that could change a little bit that would make it better. And hopefully this ban list fixes that, instead of doing a hit which would have probably been relevant like a couple months ago, like ban Whitebinder, which, don't get me wrong, I would love to see Whitebinder banned. Whitebinder is probably one of my least favorite cards of all time. Not even that. I would like to say that Malice is probably one of my least favorite decks of all time. And I would love to just see it banned, so I never have to see that deck at a tournament again. But I don't personally think it might need hit like that anymore, which is crazy to say. But it just seems like people were bored of what they were playing before. Like, a deck like Malice could still be just as good and compete with everything else. But the fact that no one wants to play it, I think, says a lot. And I think that's kind of where the ban list is going to have to make a decision, because we saw this happen around December of last year, when Rizio and Malice first dropped for, I think that was, oh, what YCS was that? It must have been YCS Anaheim. I think it was the one that Triff won. And Triff obviously won with Fiendsmith Ryziel. But it's crazy because I think only one Fire King Snake Eye deck made it into top 32. Which was nuts because a lot of people going into the event thought that Snake Eyes was probably still the way to go. And looking back at it, I think Snake Eye would still be just as playable, be just as good going into the rest of the format. But the biggest issue is that people were bored, right? Like when you're playing those cards for so long, like I can say this for myself. I would love to still be able to compete with Ryziel and Mitsurugi. And I can still probably top a locals or even like do well at a regional with it. But do I want to? No, that deck is not as fun, in my opinion, as the other ones. It's just been around for too long. I don't want to touch the cards anymore. And at YCS Vancouver, shout out to Justin Singh, a fellow Ohio player, for doing pretty well with that. Well, I think yeah. But it was just kind of crazy that happened. You know, like that felt a little weird. That felt a little weird that something like that happened. Right? That no one else wants to play those cards. And it can still just compete. It can still win. It can still top. But I think there's one bigger thing in Justice Hunters that we've been missing for a while that we haven't really had in a minute. And it's the fact that I can say this from my own personal thing. Like for Nats, right? Nats this past year was very hard to prepare for. Solely for the fact that no deck felt really good and could play at all times. So going into Nationals, the two decks that I chose between were Blue Eyes and Ryziel Mitsu Fiendsmith. The Kyle Jones deck. If you know, you know. Shout out to Kyle. The biggest issue I had was that Blue Eyes could just always play, and if I saw the non-engine I wanted, I was winning 9 times out of 10. But I don't want to be dependent on seeing certain non-engine. But a deck like Ryziel Mitsu Fiendsmith, all I needed was 2 bodies, and I could always play with those. And the ceiling was so much higher, and I could do so many dumb, stupid things with it. So I ended up doing that. But the issue was that you kind of just lose if you don't, if you get talanced, or cross-outed, or called by. And that format had so many different issues. But my buddy ended up topping with Blue Eyes that tournament. And I ended up picking Ryziel Fiendsmith Mitsu. And the reason I'm saying this is that right now it feels like all 3 of the decks can play with significantly less bricks than the decks from Nationals could. Right? Like, I don't think Draco Tail is in particularly that good. But the fact that it can always play, like, it has the 1-card starter. It has the 1-card fusions. It has K2 going second. It has Rahu. It can always play. But a deck like Ryziel Mitsu, I don't want to see Asaji in my hand. I don't want to see any of the other guys, like no Kusanagi. I don't want to open up Mirakumo with no Ritual. I don't want to open up Ritual with no Mirakumo, right? It just feels like there's so many pieces and parts that have to play together that don't actually really blend that well together. Like the engine requirements don't work together. Where right now, if you open up a Case for K9 with a card like Holy Sue, that's fine, right? Because they're both 5s, and you can Jokel summon out them both, right? Or Case for K9 with Xiaolong, or, you know, Jokel with Xiaolong. It just feels like the bricks actually can, like, play together, unlike what was going on with Mitsurai. And Malice is a whole different beast, where it felt like Malice can do everything if it's all Dormouse, but if it didn't really have access to it, it couldn't do anything. And it just kind of spun its wheels until it got to play. I don't know. That deck also just felt like it was mad inconsistent, because there were just so many times. Like, I remember on feature at Nats, like, 2 people just, like, normal summoned out their Fuwas and just swung them into each other. So, I'm very glad we're in a format where most decks can play 99% of the time, right? Like, even if it's weaker, right? Like, it doesn't have to be super high roll. It's just the fact that they get to play. And I think stuff like that is really cool and really fantastic. But, continuing on with the ban list, one thing that's going on is the Megatons, right? So the Megatons are dropping within a week, and there were leaks to show that a couple old school banned cards are being reprinted. These being notably Dark Matter Dragon and Chaos Ruler. Now, I'll start this right now by saying I don't think those cards should ever come back, right? The fact that dragons back in the day, or not even back in the day, like a year ago, were playing cards like Zombie Vampire, just so that they had the chance to mill a card that could be good. But you're giving them Dark Matter Dragon, possibly, that you can make by making just a rank 4, because there is a rank 4 Galaxy monster. So any rank 4 says dump 3 dragons from your deck for cost. That's ridiculous. Or just having a free or easier way to get into Zombie Vampire, because Zombie Vampire is a rank 8. Chaos Ruler just says mill 5. You don't have to go into a rank 8. You just have to be able to make a level 8 synchro. These are just 2 very dangerous cards I hope never come back. I got into a discussion in one of my group chats the other day where people were saying that, oh yeah, no, this card can come back, no problem. There's no shot. If you've ever read a Dragon card or know someone who's played Dragons, they can tell you like 100 times out of 10 those cards should never come back. Or if they do, they're coping and they just really want to play Dragons. So, yeah. That's really it on the Megatons. The Megatons, I don't feel like are going to have that big of an impact, obviously. Maybe it just lowers the price of Perulia, but it looks like they're pre-sailing for about $50, which is about where they're at now. That card just might be infinitely expensive for the rest of the time because of how they reprinted it in Maze. But, yeah. Covered Banlist, covered Megatons. Soon we have out Doom of Dimensions coming out as well. So we actually have a couple tournaments coming up. We still have a couple weeks left of Justice Hunters format with the Sky Striker mat. And then Doom of Dimensions comes out the weekend of the 26th or 27th. That weekend is YCS Lille. And that set drops a bunch of crazy cards. And what it could drop too is also just as important. So right now, if we're looking at Justice Hunters, and of course the top 3 decks being Dracotail, Vanquishal Canine, and the other deck, Yummy. They all 3 get good support in the next set. Dracotail has the worst of them, but obviously it's fine. Because it could get something else, which I'll go into later. Yummy gets a card that just fixes everything. Like, their card Mallow just does so much. And that goes for Canine too. Canine just gets a normal summon that says, look at your opponent's hand. That's disgusting. And I heard that there's a way in the future to bridge specifically from Canine into Vanquishal, which we haven't had yet. So if we get the chance for that, that could be game-breaking. But I don't think it's going to be that good. I haven't really seen the results in the OCG of next set. It just looks like it's like much... It's just Mallow. Like, it's just Yummy everywhere. But what could really shake up the meta, because right now, if we're looking at the meta, if it is a true triangle, it's about 60-40 Yummy beats... Yeah, 60-40 Yummy beats Canine. 60-40 Dracotail beats Yummy. And about 80-20, Vanquishal just demolishes Dracotail, right? Like, there's no argument with that, really. Unless I'm just missing something. And even then, it feels like Dracotail gets the end of the bad end of the stick against Yummy. Because Yummy can also just make Dracotail go first. And none of the cards in Dracotail really interact well with the cards in Yummy, right? Because Pan's a crazy card. Urgula is a very crazy card. But other than that, if they can just play through a couple pops, it's a lot easier than them going first and dying. So if they make Dracotail go first, they're usually having like a more advantageous play point. This could all change if Dracotail gets this card called Spoon, though. Because if they get Magister Spoon, Dude format looks a lot more interesting. Because nothing else in Dude really seems very interesting other than the new Dominus card. And that one new archetype that's kind of related to Archmage, but I'm not really too interested in it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't even think it has that much of an OCG impact. I could be wrong, but I don't think it has. I just think it's crazy to see that if Dracotail gets Spoon, it might be a little better over here than it was in the OCG. Because not only do they have more starters in Dracotail, which Dracotail is topping now with the least amount of starters, Dracotail also gets basically just like a skill drain and a negate and a way to get into their Dracotail engine easier. And I would love to see how that would work over here, because that would actually be very good into Mallow. But that's just me. I actually have if you guys live around the Ohio, Pennsylvania area, there is going to be a tournament for about like $2,000 worth of prizing at the Hall of Fame Comic-Con in Canton. So that would be the same weekend of YCS Lille. So if instead you want to go out to, Europe for Lille, that's on you. If you don't want to go out there, Hall of Fame Comic-Con tournament is also going to be there as well. Shout out to Battlegrounds and Board Games, always doing what they can to help out the player base. But that would make that tournament very, very interesting, right? Because if more people are expecting Mallow, if you just know how to do the spoon lines, that deck just might be crazy into that, like a really good meta call. But that's all I really have much to say right now. We're kind of in a boring space in the game other than Justice Hunters are releasing, but everyone's just kind of saying the same things. I'm going to try to be producing these more often. Usually it's not going to be me. I try to have another friend on for today, but I'll have one on next weekend. Thank you guys for tuning into Topcast. We are the only podcast dedicating to getting you top at Yu-Gi-Oh! Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.